Hello, children. It is now time for our fourth chapter in our story, God's Special Messenger. God's special messenger's name was Ellen Gold White. She was born in 1827 and she died in 1915. The fourth chapter in our story is called Saved from a Storm, Part 1. But before we start our story, let's sing our theme song together, Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam. When Ellen Harmon was 17 years old, Jesus called her to be his special messenger. Jesus needed someone to whom he could give the messages that would help people get ready for his soon coming. Ellen knew that the work Jesus was asking her to do would be very hard, but she chose to do what Jesus said. She trusted Jesus to help her just as he had promised to do. Ellen and her family lived in the state of Maine. Ellen was born in the city of Gorham. Later, her family moved to the city of Portland. Ellen traveled with her sister Sarah to places where people had invited Ellen to tell them the messages that Jesus had given her. One time, she heard about a family that was very lonely and discouraged. They lived on a small island off the coast of Portland. When Ellen heard about the family on the island that had grown so discouraged, she said, "I must visit them, but who can take us?" A kind gentleman by the name of Mr. Gurney said, "I have a friend who has a sailboat. I'm sure he will lend it to us. When do you want to go?" Ellen replied, "Today. I want to go today." So Mr. Gurney said that he would come back in the afternoon to take Ellen and Sarah in the boat to the island. But when Mr. Gurney came to get them, Ellen was feeling very sick. Mr. Gurney asked whether she still wanted to visit that family. She said, "Yes, I do." But when she tried to stand up, she was just too weak. At once, Mr. Gurney knelt by the bed and asked Jesus to heal her so they could visit the family on the island. When he finished praying, Ellen stood up. Her sickness was gone, and she wasn't weak anymore. They thanked Jesus for helping them. Then Mr. Gurney took them to the sailboat. It didn't take long to leave the harbor and start sailing the short distance to the island. There were only 2 houses on the island, and the discouraged family lived in one of them. Suddenly, a bad storm came. Strong winds started blowing, and there was lightning and thunder. Then rain soaked them all. The little sailboat tossed about, and big waves dashed into it. It got so dark that Mr. Gurney couldn't see where they were and how to get to the island. It seemed sure that they would all drown. There in that tossing boat, with waves splashing over them, Ellen knelt and started praying for Jesus to please save them. Right away, Jesus gave her a vision. Everything seemed calm and beautiful, and Ellen knew that Jesus would keep them from drowning. Jesus had many more years of work for her to do for him. When the vision ended, Ellen looked around. The storm was still terrible, but she wasn't afraid anymore. And when she told Sarah and Mr. Gurney what had happened, they weren't afraid anymore either. So Mr. Gurney decided to drop the sailboat's anchor. Perhaps it would catch on something, and finally it did. "The water isn't so deep here," Mr. Gurney said. "We must be close to land." Then he went to the front of the boat and started yelling, "Help! Help!" Would anyone hear them? Would they hear them calling for help? We'll find out in our next story.